Well, let's see how crazy this next question is. Jim, this was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Nemo in Ocala, Florida.
Captain Nemo! Or is it Little Nemo?
Well, it just says Nemo here, and there's a great new Little Nemo in Slumberland collection that Tashin Books just put out. It's fantastic. But remember, Jim, a lot of people are new to the show. A lot of people don't know the insides of the business the way you do. With that said, I hear throughout the episodes of pushing a wrestler or getting him over. Is there a difference between a push and getting over? Also, what is the process of a push? Thank you both for the countless laughs, especially through the bullshit that this world is going through.
Well, if I was better on my nouns and adverbs and adjectives, but a push is a promotional push, obviously. It's a promotional, a concerted effort by the matchmaker, the booker, the promoter to elevate one of their talents that they feel deserving of it to a higher spot on the card, to main event status or whatever, to use him, as they say. You know, that's the guys always, I wish so-and-so would use me better. Well, if you're being given a push, you're being used and better. You're attempting to be elevated. Getting over is hopefully the byproduct of the push, in that they push you and you get over. You become more popular, or if you're a heel, more unpopular. You become a bigger box office attraction. You become more recognized by the fans, and you're bought in their minds as a legitimate guy that should be in the main event rather than, you know, why the fuck's this jabroni on top? So it's, you know, that's the difference between a push and getting over. You are, hopefully, if everything works, you are getting over while you're being pushed. So, but it's connected, but it's not the same thing. One is a cause and the other is an effect, right?
There have been many examples of guys getting pushed well past where the audience is accepting of them. Sometimes it's with the promoter's own children.
Oh, yeah. Well, just because you push somebody doesn't mean that they're actually going to get over. It doesn't always work that way. The cake doesn't always rise. Nothing is ever guaranteed. And then there's also the case of where you can push somebody, and even if they get over to some degree, you keep pushing them until you push them over a cliff because people are not ready to buy them at the level that you're trying to sell them at. Wheeler Useless, Daniel Garcia. Or I was about to say the George Goulas fit the first category in that, I mean, you know, actually, Nick had such a strong promotion when he started George that George did get cheered by people for a while, but it got old quick and he went over that cliff. But there's some, when you push, and we've also talked about, well, if so-and-so had the push that so-and-so's had, he'd be the goddamn biggest box office attraction in wrestling. If you take a guy who really shouldn't necessarily be in that spot and you smash him over and you push him and you just, you know, make him like second coming of, you know, Jesus, and they will cheer for him. But if you'd taken somebody who had more of the qualities or capabilities, or the fans already liked a little better, and given them the same type of treatment, then your returns would have been bigger. That's somehow how that's phrased.
What about it when it goes the other way and a wrestler somehow on their own starts getting over, and then you decide to go to the push, as opposed to a promoter or a booker saying, I want this guy to get over, let's give him a good push right out of the gate?
Well, yes, and that's, again, that's just being a good booker and recognizing when there's something about a guy that people are liking or not liking. In the case of a heel, you know what I'm saying? There's something about this guy that's getting over with people. So let's continue that. Let's try to help that. Let's not fight against the tide. If they're bringing the house down for a guy in the first match, maybe let's, you know, give him more to do. Now, again, sometimes in the modern era, the fans, and you've seen this, Brian, the fans on their own will just decide as a rib, because we're bored with this whole show, we're going to cheer the fuck out of a guy that nobody really should give a shit about if the show was any good. You've seen that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to recognize that and, maybe give the people what they want, but at the same time, you can't sacrifice your entire program at that behest. But in other cases, the thing you're not supposed to do is, if the guy is getting over with people for some reason, don't just decide then, oh, okay, I'm going to use him, but I'm going to figure out some other gimmick or some other angle to put him in, or somebody else to team him. I'm just going to change a lot of the shit about this guy and use him better. But then you may be changing the thing that they kind of like to begin with. So just give him a little more to do and see if they keep responding, and start paying attention more to the guy and why they're liking him. And is it a rib just because they're bored, or do they really like the guy? And if they do really like the guy, then let's not change whatever has instigated this appeal that we didn't really count on. Let's try to accentuate that. But, or sometimes, people will just say, oh, goddamn, I'll do something with this guy. And then, the Heartbreakers, classic example.
Yeah.
In Ohio Valley Wrestling, Antonio the Promise Thomas and Romeo Roselli, with their manager Morris Green, you make Mo Green with Morris Green, and they did the whole gimmick. I did not contribute anything except putting him on television to show it. They came up with the gimmick, they came up with the fucking the tights and the outfit, the music, the entrance, the whole 9 yards.
They were making their own videos, right?
Yes, because also at the time, Joey Mercury was captaining the ship for him and Johnny Nitro, John Hennigan, Johnny of the Many Names, and Melina when they were M&M. And they had the camera and they were going around. There was a kid that also in OVW was doing film school, helping him edit or something. I can't remember. But nevertheless, yeah, they'd go to the mall and do their own fucking video and just bring it out. I just have to look at it. Okay. Won't get us kicked off the air. Play it. And the people loved them. They became from a preliminary heel tag team. They became the most popular babyface team without us turning them. They had kids dressing up like them and coming and doing their entrance dance and everything. And when I saw that, okay, they've got kids dressing like them. I'm not going to immediately next week have some heels jump them and get juice on them and leave them laying and switch them babyface. I'm going to let them keep doing what they're doing. And, I bet you here pretty soon they're going to wrestle a heel team. And then they're probably going to wrestle another heel team. And it's just going to happen that way. And then, of course, the WWE office notices. And they bring the guys up. And they change their name because, of course, Michaels, nobody could be Heartbreakers with Heartbreak Kid around. And they didn't bring Mo Green because he wasn't under contract. And they changed their entrance music from It's Raining Men to whatever the fuck, so nobody could dance to it or do the whole fucking thing. And then they made them heels, but they had them working like heels. And I think they didn't let them wear their fucking boa either. Not a constrictor, but a feather one. And then they were dead. So there you go.
How hard is it for a booker to sit back and let things happen, or to let things breathe a little bit, as opposed to forcing a vision into every single thing?
Well, I kind of understand that question you're asking. I'm not sure that everybody else is going to have their own interpretation, so I don't know how to answer otherwise than to say, I always thought I want to make sure that every minute of the television show means something and matters and is being applied properly, but that doesn't mean rush everything. Paul Orndorff was one of my top heels in Smoky Mountain Wrestling and one of the best workers in the business. I'll give him an 8-minute match against Rip Rogers because Rip can fucking work his ass off. And, that's that at the time, that was a long TV match in some cases, but it's going to be good. There's not something happening every fucking second, but the object is to have a big star and a real good match on television, and he wins because you're using him in the house shows. Other times you want to get things done and over with. Other times you shoot an angle. You don't want to come back the next week after a beheading and have those guys throttling each other again, trying to pull their eyeballs out. You've just done it. Let it breathe. Let it register. I always believed from all the great wrestling programs that I saw when I was growing up and all the great wrestling programs that I was on when I got into business, VTRs from the previous week, VTRs from the arenas to take you out of the TV facility that you're in and show you something that the fans think either from the arena, I'm not supposed to see, or from the previous week's television, because especially back in those days, and then again, even after there were VCRs, people go on vacation. People aren't chained to the god. Wrestling fans are creatures of habit, yes, but life intervenes sometimes. You got kids, got to go to a ball game. You didn't see the wrestling show on TV. So we did an important angle. We're going to VTR the high points the following week rather than have those people come back and get in another goddamn fight. We've just done that. How many fights can they have before the one that we're going to make them pay to see? So you do the angle, have the big fight. The next week you VTR it. You fucking have comments from one or both of the participants like, the next time I see that motherfucker, next week on the show, I'm going to have a match. He better not show up. You tease forward. You let the thing breathe a little bit. Is any of this answering the question you asked?
Somewhat, yes.
What's the other part of some instead of what?
Well, just we've seen in recent years, and I guess I'm trying to figure out how much of it is a WWE phenomenon, how much of it is something that would have happened forever. Like, for instance, crazy example. In '85, in the brief time he was there, if Terry Taylor had gotten over in the NWA like gangbusters, would things have still played out the same way? Would Dusty have tried to hold on to him, or would Dusty have said, you know what, I can't work with this fucking guy, and I don't want to work with this fucking guy, send him back to Watts? How much of it is, okay, this is happening, we got to put up with this guy, we got to deal with it? How much of that was happening then versus the thing now where, this guy's kind of gotten himself over on his own on social media, let's resent him for it, and let's not capitalize on this. Let's actually use this as something to punish him for some reason.
Well, no, that's stupid. I mean, that's the thing is, when you've got somebody that's getting over on your show, they're still getting over on your show. So I've never advocated, I've had probably when I booked in various places, I probably had guys think that I could have used them better because everybody thinks that. But I can't think of the first time that I deliberately said, the people like this guy, but I don't. If I didn't like the guy, he probably wouldn't be there because I'm the fucking booker. And see, that's the thing is it's a modern thing, maybe, of burying a guy that's over on your show, not because he's getting over you and you're also a member of the office. That happened a bunch of times, but just because you don't like him, he's on your fucking show. But the thing is now the writers and or whoever else is involved, it's not really their show. They're getting paid the same just like the wrestlers are, regardless of whether a ticket is sold or a viewer watches TV or not. They've got a job and a salary and a guarantee. And in merchandise gets in, you get more, but the writers, so they don't, if somebody, especially that they've told the boss, this guy ain't worth a shit. If suddenly the people are cheering and yelling for him and reacting, they're thinking, fuck, I'm going to look like an idiot. Maybe that's why that happens. I do not know.
Like, look at FTR. I mean, here's an example in AEW. Forget about Vince McMahon doing that to people like Zack Ryder or whoever it may be throughout the years.
We've mentioned that. It's because the executive vice presidents who will make the same amount of money, regardless of how the company does, because it's Tony's ass on the line, or his dad's. They didn't want this guy to get over them. And so this team to get over them. So they set about making sure that they didn't. That's obvious. That's been obvious. And most people aren't even disagreeing with it anymore. But what I'm saying is that, unless there have been plenty of instances in wrestling history of a booker or a guy who was a wrestler but also had an interest in the office making sure to cut the knees out from under a guy that was getting over because he was threatened for his position. And in some cases, a top guy that wasn't connected to the office and was even more threatened because he wasn't connected to the office. Sometimes the guy that did have a piece of the promotion thought if this guy gets stronger than me, he might be able to fucking muscle in, and then it's less for everybody if he gets a piece. Or it might be the same way that guy got a piece to begin with. Getting over so strong, he told a promoter, hey, give me a piece or I'm fucking walking. So that kind of shit happened, but it's a modern thing that a guy is just on the card, is just starting to get over, and for no apparent reason otherwise than it wasn't their plan, the staff of writers or whoever the fuck, a la this Matt Ryder fella, just don't do anything with him. And that's just because they can't be bothered to be proven that they were wrong, and it doesn't affect their money either way. When a booker found unlikely guy that was going to get over, it meant that he might sell more tickets, especially if he's a local boy, hometown hero or whatever. So he was all for doing that until, of course, the point in time where that guy would threaten him.